A rookie quarterback just torched an NFL defense, dropped nearly 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 picks, and then walked away from the team that drafted him. Not because he got injured, not because of some locker room beef, but because his own head coach decided to humiliate him in front of the entire league. This isn't just another preseason headline. What's happening in Cleveland right now is a full-blown quarterback crisis, except this one started after a win. Shedeur Sanders looked like a natural in his very first NFL appearance. He delivered crisp throws, controlled the game like a vet, and gave Browns fans something they haven't felt in years: hope. They finally had a quarterback who looked like the one. And then head coach Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the mic and blew it all up. Instead of praising his rookie, Stefanski nitpicked his play, questioned his reads. Publicly aired criticism that no one else seemed to notice. What should have been a moment to build confidence turned into a power move, and Sanders wasn't having it. He didn't lash out, he didn't throw a tantrum. He just left. Quietly, intentionally, and he hasn't returned since. According to insiders, his message to the team was simple: if that's how this franchise handles its future, I'm out. And now, the Browns are unraveling. Teammates are picking sides. The front office is in full-blown damage control. Fans are furious, and rival teams across the league are already circling like sharks, waiting to see if Sanders becomes available. This isn't just a football story anymore. It's about respect, ego, control, and whether Cleveland just fumbled away the best shot it's had. That's not drama, that's a message. No one expected Shedeur Sanders to dominate the way he did. Coming into that preseason game, he was just supposed to show flashes. Maybe a couple of nice throws, a few rookie mistakes, pat on the back for potential. That's the script for first-year quarterbacks. But Shedeur didn't follow the script. From his very first drive against the Rams, something felt different. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look raw. He looked ready, calm in the pocket, sharp on timing routes, commanding the offense like he'd been doing it for years. And every snap he took erased a little more doubt. By the end of the night, Sanders had dropped 247 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. But the numbers only tell part of the story. It was how he played. He threaded tight windows. He manipulated the pocket. He audibled at the line and read the Rams' defense like a guy who had no business being that comfortable in his very first NFL showing. That second quarter touchdown, straight up surgical. Pressure coming off the edge, pocket collapsing, and Shedeur dropped a flawless throw. Over the shoulder, right on the sideline, exactly where only his guy could make the play. It was the kind of toss that franchise quarterbacks make. The fans went wild. The internet lit up. His teammates? They were rallying around him before he even hit the tunnel. For the first time in what feels like forever, Cleveland had something real, something they could build on. And then, instead of doubling down on that momentum, praising the poise, the performance, the promise, Kevin Stefanski stepped to the microphone and said the exact opposite. But why? Why call out the most impressive rookie performance of the preseason? That's where this story takes a sharp left. Because what came next didn't just change how the team looked at their quarterback, it changed how their quarterback looked at them. After a performance that had fans buzzing and teammates fired up, all Kevin Stefanski had to do was acknowledge what everyone saw. His rookie quarterback looked special. But that's not what happened. Instead, the Browns head coach went the other way. At his post-game presser, with media crowded around and cameras rolling, Stefanski picked apart Sanders' game like a mid-season film session. He questioned his footwork, criticized his mechanics, said his decision-making still needs work. He even mentioned turnovers, despite Shedeur not throwing a single interception. And it wasn't subtle. It wasn't framed as thoughtful or constructive. This sounded personal, like a head coach trying to cut his quarterback down to size before the hype went too far. The reaction? Immediate. Fans who spent the last 2 decades begging for competent quarterback play suddenly watched their head coach toss cold water on the most exciting performance Cleveland's had in years. Comment sections exploded. Players were caught off guard. Local reporters called it bizarre. And national media? They couldn't believe it. Why would a coach torch his own rookie's momentum on purpose? Some insiders believe they know the answer. Control. According to multiple reports, Stefanski didn't like how loose the narrative was getting. Shedeur was getting, and Stefanski, known for being ultra-disciplined, ultra-structured, decided to send a message. No rookie is bigger than the team. But in doing that, he may have crossed a line that can't be walked back. Because this wasn't just some locker room chat. This was public, deliberate, strategic. And instead of coming off like a leader, Stefanski looked like a man trying to flex his authority on the wrong person at the worst possible time. And Shedeur noticed. He didn't argue. He didn't call a meeting. He exited, quietly, but decisively. And when your rookie QB decides to walk after a press conference, that's not overreaction. That's a breaking point. Shedeur Sanders didn't storm out. He didn't slam a locker or post some emotional rant online. He just left. Right after Stefanski's press conference, Sanders gathered his things, but what looked like silence on the outside. It was a calculated message that hit louder than any words could. Insiders say he made one thing very clear. I'm not going to be disrespected, especially not after that performance. And he meant it. He hasn't returned since. No texts to teammates, no quotes to reporters, no tweets, no subtweets. Just silence. And that silence? It's deafening. Because this isn't some mid-level wideout walking off in frustration. This is a rookie quarterback days removed from a nearly perfect debut, choosing to walk away from the team entirely because of words, not play calling. It flipped everything upside down overnight. Now, practices feel different. The reps are off. The quarterbacks left, Gabriel and Flacco, don't draw the same spark. They don't carry the same energy. And worst of all, the Browns front office didn't see this coming. They assumed Sanders would react like most rookies. Nod politely, take the hit, commit to getting better, and earn trust slowly. But Shedeur isn't most rookies. He's grown up in the spotlight. He's built a brand before throwing an NFL touchdown. And he knows exactly what kind of statement it makes when you leave. Not out of pride, but out of principle. To some, it looks like ego. To others, maturity. But no matter how you frame it, this isn't normal. Rookie quarterbacks almost never challenge the system this early. They play the game. They earn stripes. But Sanders, he's playing his game now. And every day he stays gone, that message grows louder. If you want me to lead this team, treat me like a leader. The moment Shedeur Sanders walked out, the energy inside the Browns facility shifted. Not in a loud meltdown kind of way, but in that unsettling way where everyone starts looking over their shoulder, wondering who's next to pick a side. Players stopped smiling. Coaches started whispering. And what used to feel like a team started to feel like 2 different camps. On one side are the Stefanski loyalists, veterans who believe in the chain of command, guys who've spent years in the league, earning everything the hard way. To them, no rookie, no matter how talented, gets to walk in and demand respect overnight. They won't say it on camera, but they see Stefanski's stance as old-school discipline. Protect the locker room, keep egos in check, set the tone early. On the other side, players who watched what Sanders did on the field and said, yeah, that guy's different. Especially the younger ones, and especially the veterans who they see Sanders as someone drawing a hard line, not for attention, but for dignity. Now you have this silent tension running through every practice. Quarterbacks rotate awkwardly. Coaches bark a little louder to sound in control. Teammates are getting asked about the situation in every interview, and nobody has clear answers. It doesn't feel like a preseason camp anymore. It feels like a political campaign, except nobody wants to be the first one to say how they really feel. This is how division starts, quietly, subtly, and then, all at once, it tears through a team. Because every day Sanders stays gone, players are forced to choose. Do you back the quarterback who looks like the future, or the coach holding the present together? There's no unspoken rulebook for this, and in Cleveland, even silence feels like a declaration of war. While the players choose sides and the media, the real panic isn't happening on the field, it's happening behind closed doors. Inside Browns headquarters, ownership is spiraling. Jimmy Haslam, the team's owner, didn't expect this kind of firestorm after a preseason win. The fan base was buzzing, national attention was rolling in, and they finally had a rookie quarterback trending for all the right reasons. Momentum, for once, was on their side. And then, it all collapsed over a press conference. Now Haslam is stuck in a nightmare scenario. Reports say he's furious, not just with Shedeur for walking away, but with Kevin Stefanski for creating the problem in the first place. When you've got the most exciting prospect in years lighting up preseason and electrifying the fan base, you don't kick him while the cameras are rolling. But fixing it? That's where things get ugly. Trying to play diplomat. He knows Stefanski's authority matters. Coaches can't just be overruled by players or ownership every time emotions flare. But Barry also knows what's at stake. Shedeur Sanders is more than a quarterback. He's a brand. He sells tickets. He leads highlight reels. He has the spotlight, and he uses it well. So Haslam and Barry are facing a brutal choice. Back Stefanski and risk alienating a quarterback who could define the franchise for the next decade. Or back Sanders and risk gutting the head coach's authority and possibly his career. No matter what side they choose, Haslam knows one thing. This season is already hanging by a thread. The longer this drags on, the more fractured things get. And the fan base? They're watching, they're furious, and they're tired of reliving the same nightmare under a new name. This isn't just about hurt feelings anymore. It's about which future the Browns are willing to bet on, and who they're willing to sacrifice to get there. No tweets, no press conference, no cryptic Instagram captions. Since walking out of the Browns facility, Shedeur Sanders has said nothing at all. And that silence? It's not weakness. It's strategy. See, most rookies would have taken that kind of public criticism and folded. They'd clench their jaw, get back on the field, and try to prove themselves quietly. Especially a rookie quarterback, barely through one preseason game. But Shedeur didn't flinch, and he didn't respond. He disappeared on purpose. And somehow the silence made his presence feel even louder. Every day he's gone, the tension inside the franchise only grows. Every practice without him feels incomplete. Every quarterback rep taken by someone else is a reminder of who isn't there. Because Shedeur didn't just walk out. His absence has become the storyline. The empty locker, the rumors, the debates, the fans rallying on social, the media begging for a soundbite. But there's nothing, just stillness. And that silence? It speaks volumes. It tells the league, I'm not here for breadcrumbs. I'm not here to be your backup plan. I'm here to lead, or I'm not here at all. When you come from a legacy like his, the spotlight doesn't scare you. Shedeur grew up around pressure. He was built for moments like this. While Stefanski tries to control the narrative through the media, Shedeur is doing something even more dangerous, letting the narrative build on its own. And it's working. He hasn't said a word, and yet everyone is talking about him. TV panels, Podcasts, fan forums, opposing GMs. Everyone's leaning in to see what he does next. In a league known for noise, Shedeur, and every day he stays silent, the Browns' problems get louder, and his legend gets bigger. The Browns aren't just dealing with a locker room crisis or a coaching dilemma. They're dealing with a spotlight that just got a lot brighter. Because while Cleveland stalls, the rest of the NFL is watching closely. Front offices from coast to coast have already taken notice of what's unfolding and what might be unraveling. Rival teams are calling quietly, texting Shedeur's camp, asking around, is he really that serious? Would he want a fresh start elsewhere? What would it take to make this problem ours instead of Cleveland's? And guess what? Some of these teams do not official trade talks yet, but speculation, projections, quiet discussions behind closed doors that sound a lot like plans being drawn. Because a quarterback who can perform like Sanders did in his preseason debut, a rookie who already carries himself like a veteran, that kind of presence doesn't sit in limbo for long, not in today's NFL. And here's the real fear inside Cleveland, the idea that Sanders could leave and become a star somewhere else. If he goes to a franchise that empowers him, gives him a coach that believes in him, lets him lead the way he clearly wants to, that's not just a loss, that's a legacy failure. And the media is feeding the flames. Talk show panels debating whether Sanders should force his way out. Podcasts breaking down his mechanics alongside headlines like, Browns blew it again. Every sports network and every fan base burned by past quarterback flots is glued to the situation, popcorn in hand. Because if Cleveland can't hold on to this kid, there are at least 10 teams ready to make him the face of their future. And some of those teams, they'd love nothing more than to steal a franchise QB straight out of Cleveland's hands. If you're a Browns fan, you've seen this movie before. The promising quarterback, the sudden hype, the hope that finally, this is the one. And then, chaos, collapse, controversy, followed by another name on the back of that long, cursed jersey. But this time it's different, because this time the quarterback didn't mess it up. The organization did. Shedeur Sanders didn't flame out in a must-win game. He didn't throw 4 picks in a playoff meltdown. He delivered exactly what Cleveland's been begging for: composure, accuracy, leadership, and got slapped in the face for it. Not by the media, by his coach. And now, because of one public power play, the Browns are teetering on the edge of turning yet another generational talent into a ghost story. One more quarterback who could have been the answer if only they hadn't gotten in their own way. This isn't Baker Mayfield running his mouth at a press conference. This isn't Johnny Manziel partying his way out of the league. This is a player who showed up prepared, executed on the field, spoke with his play, not his ego, and still got lined up as the scapegoat. That's why this situation cuts deeper than the usual sports drama. It feeds the narrative that Cleveland just can't have nice things. That no matter how much raw talent walks through the door, someone within the building will always find a way to ruin it. The Browns fan base isn't just angry, they're exhausted because it looked like the curse was ending. It looked like, maybe, for once, the cycle was broken. ... And now, it feels like chaos is reloading for another decade. Only this time, it's not just a quarterback controversy. It's a culture clash. Because if they lose Shedeur Sanders over this, the curse doesn't just live on. It writes a whole new chapter.